Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are plunging into a topic that feels less like a professional alignment and, well, more like a generational battleground.
Yeah, it really does.
We're talking about how the newest workers view their jobs and why that view is rattling the foundations of traditional corporate culture.
And the source material we looked at described the modern job interview as a kind of sparring contest.
A sparring contest, exactly, where both the company and the young candidate are fiercely trying to clarify what they want from the experience.
And they're often speaking two completely different languages.
Which is why we're here. Today, for you, the listener, our mission is to really understand why that traditional work ethic is clashing so hard with Gen Z.
And more importantly, how organizations can adapt. We've seen sources from, frustrated HR professionals, but also from management consultants who are finding creative ways to bridge this gap.
It's about meeting in the middle, right? Not just demanding things be done the old way. We're looking for the secret to engaging this massive incoming workforce.
And we have to start with a data point that is, frankly, setting off alarm bells everywhere. It comes from NYU professor Susie Welch.
This one really is startling. She conducted a huge study on Gen Z and businesses, and the findings are a little shocking when you look at them through a traditional lens.
Very. Okay, so get this. The study found that a mere 2%, just 2% of Generation Z members hold the values that companies say they want most.
And what are those values?
A strong desire for achievement, a passion for learning, and an unbridled desire to work.
2%. When you see that statistic, it just immediately screams fundamental disconnect.
It's a hard number to swallow if your whole career was built on the idea that, ambition and climbing the ladder are the default drivers.
Of course.
For a lot of organizations, the question isn't just about turnover, it's about the future leadership pipeline. If those old metrics don't motivate 98% of your new talent, what does?
That is the key question.
Yeah.
And we have to look at what they are prioritizing. Let's break down the top 3 values Gen Z actually holds. First up is the desire for self-care and personal pleasure. To put it simply, they want to be happy.
Yeah.
They want to prioritize their well-being.
Number 2 is the desire to express their authentic individuality. They want to have a voice that's heard and valued, not to have to put on a corporate mask every day.
And the third value, which we're going to get into, is the desire to help people, to make a difference, often prioritizing a social contribution over just maximizing profit.
Right, and as you said, none of these values are bad, but they do represent a conscious choice to push back on that old school work ethic.
A pushback that comes from somewhere.
Exactly. The research calls it a lookout for number one mindset. And it isn't necessarily selfish, it's more self-protective.
Because they saw what happened to the generation before them.
Precisely. Many of them watched their parents worship their work, becoming these stressed out, perpetually anxious workaholics. They saw the high material success, but it was paired with high personal unhappiness.
So they made a pretty rational conclusion. I don't want to hate my job. I don't want to feel bound to it like my parents did.
And that's where the gap opens up. An employer needs reliability. They need people who can handle deadlines, who put in extra effort. But if the employee's top priority is personal peace, there's a ceiling on that dedication.
The challenge for companies right now isn't just hiring Gen Z, it's figuring out how to fully engage them when their core values seem so misaligned.
So we have to go deeper. If money and promotions aren't the primary motivators, what is? And this is where the source material gets truly fascinating.
Let's talk about the psychological drivers.
What's amazing is how that third value, that intense quest for making a difference, aligns with these much deeper existential questions.
Existential questions. How so?
The sources suggest a link between what researchers define as giftedness, which is a preoccupation with complex problem solving and existential anxiety.
A fixation on life's big questions, meaning purpose, death.
Exactly. For these individuals, the biggest problems to solve aren't just about market share, they're about the meaning of life itself.
And that fixation leads to a crucial insight about how they approach work.
It does. The sources highlight that they don't necessarily want answers from a manager. They want a sounding board. They want to answer the questions themselves. They crave that intellectual autonomy.
So instead of asking for a roadmap, they're saying, give me the problem and let me own the path to solving it.
Yes. If you, as the manager, just hand them a fully formed solution, they might do it, but they will never truly own it.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This desire for ownership, it actually has a philosophical underpinning. There's a powerful quote from the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer.
Oh, this one's perfect.
It is. He wrote, and I want to get this right, Truth that is merely learned sticks to us like an artificial limb, a false tooth, a wax nose.
Yeah.
But what is acquired through one's own thinking resembles the natural limb, and it alone truly belongs to us.
And that right there, that's the intellectual key, an artificial limb. If an employee feels like a process is just forced on them, they'll only give you the bare minimum.
A false tooth, it's not really theirs.
Right. They prefer good, complex questions, not prescriptive answers. Their convictions, their buy-in, it's so much deeper if they're aided by a manager, not just handed a mandate.
This desire for full intellectual ownership, it perfectly mirrors their need for autonomy in the workplace.
And this insight led consultants directly to the solution framework they started using, which they called the hobby model.
The hobby model. Okay, let's move into the strategy. In these focus groups with Gen Z, there was this major epiphany.
Yes.
The young people said they wished work could be treated more like a hobby, something they did because they wanted to, not because they had to.
And this is the crucial shift in mindset for leaders. The motivation has to move from duty to devotion.
Duty versus devotion.
Duty is obligation, it's compliance, it's doing just enough. Devotion is inspiration, it's engagement, it's passion. This is how you bridge that massive 98% value gap from the NYU study.
That sounds great in theory. But my first question, from a practical organizational standpoint, is how? How does a manager with tight deadlines and business objectives actually do that?
A fair question. The sources outline a very clear set of actionable steps. The first one is deceptively simple. You profile tasks by connecting them to the employee's existing talents and passions.
So you stop seeing them as just a job title.
You see them as an individual. Give me an example. Let's say you have a new data analyst.
Okay.
And you find out she spends her weekends volunteering, optimizing software for a local nonprofit. Her passion isn't just data entry, it's optimization for social good.
I see.
So her next task, cleaning up some legacy database, isn't framed as cleanup duty. It's reframed as an organizational optimization project that will reduce friction for colleagues and free up time for more valuable work. You're speaking her language, you're tapping into the why.
And the second step goes right back to that need for intellectual ownership.
Yeah.
That Schopenhauer quote.
Absolutely. Step 2 is granting more autonomy. Letting the employee accomplish that task using strategies they come up with, rather than following some rigid step-by-step guide.
So instead of saying, use this software and follow this template, you say, this is the goal. How do you think we should get there?
Exactly. And by doing that, the employee moves from feeling like they're just renting the task to fully owning it. The work becomes an expression of their competence, their passion.
And the managers who did this, they found that productivity and quality went up.
Exponentially. Because
Yeah.
the person was driven by an internal purpose, not just an external obligation.
Okay, but I have to push back a bit here, reflecting some of the skepticism I hear from leaders. Doesn't this just blur the line between work and hobby in a way that leads to exploitation? Are we just rebranding overwork as devotion and pushing them toward burnout?
That is the critical question, and the sources do address it. The key is in the word autonomy. The hobby model isn't about asking them to work 80 hours a week because they love it.
It's not about that.
No, it's about giving them ownership over the how and the when within the boundaries of the organization's needs. The outcomes are still required.
So you still have punctuality, you still have deadlines.
Of course. Think about your favorite hobby. It could be sports or gaming or anything. You can't wait to get to it. Your best, most focused work on that hobby might happen at 10 p.m. on a Saturday, not 10 a.m. on a Monday.
That's inspired work, not forced work.
And that's what the organization is harnessing. When you're driven by devotion, you're fully engaged. You find novel solutions. When you're driven by duty, you just take the path of least resistance to get it done.
And this is where that successful overlap happens. The organization gets what it needs, reliable outcomes, and in return, it gets inspired work from fully engaged teammates. They meet in the middle.
Right, it's a dynamic negotiation, not a static expectation.
Which means leaders just can't demand alignment with the way we've always done it. The organization has to adapt. Gen Z's pushback is actually a valuable nudge, forcing leaders to grow and find better ways to work.
Ultimately, it's about finding that intersection where the organization's values and the team members' values meet.
So we've covered the startling 2% statistic, we've explored the deep need for full intellectual ownership, and detailed how the hobby model can shift motivation from duty to devotion. It's a complex, but I think ultimately hopeful picture.
It is. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought from the sources. It's about the core motivation of these highly engaged individuals.
Go on.
The research notes that sometimes these people desire the impossible. They want to pursue intense ambition and solve complex problems without the intense anxiety that naturally comes with it.
They want the meaning without the stress.
They want to have your purpose and avoid the pain, so to speak. And the sources say eventually you have to choose between intense existential thought and comfort.
So where does the hobby model fit into that?
Well, that's the provocative question for you, the listener. If this model successfully links deep passion to professional life, does it genuinely resolve that tension for Gen Z? Or does it, by blurring the lines between identity and job, actually risk perpetuating that desire to have it all without acknowledging the potential for burnout that comes with pouring your full self into a career?
A profound question to consider, and a great point for you to mull over. We encourage you to look at your own teams and see where you might be able to cede a little more autonomy to foster devotion, not just duty. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.